Story 1. So, here I am, in this big and bustling land called America. My daughter lives here with her husband, and I've come to visit them. It's quite different from home, but I'm excited to see what this place has to offer. After settling in for a bit, I felt the need to pick up a few things from the store. My daughter has a car, and she said I could use it. Such a helpful child she is, but she's always so busy with her work, and I didn't want to bother her. She works from home, you see, and I know how important that is to her. With her blessings, I took the car keys and set off. The roads here are quite wide, and the cars move quite fast. I kept my GPS on, just to be sure I don't get lost. You need to know that my English is good, like really good. But just like any non-native, I do have an accent, and you can easily hear it. That's important for later. I found a Walmart not too far away, and decided that's where I'd go. It's a big store, and surely they would have everything I needed. Once inside, I grabbed a cart and started browsing. The bright lights and the endless shelves were a bit overwhelming, but I was too excited. I picked up a few items, making sure to stick to my shopping list. As I walked through the aisles, I couldn't help but marvel at the variety of things they had. It felt good to be self-reliant even in this new place. So, there I was, just trying to move forward in the store. I had my cart, filled with the things I needed, and I was ready to keep going. But then, right in front of me, stood a woman. She was older, maybe in her late 50s, and she seemed to be blocking the aisle. I waited for a moment, thinking she might notice and move, but she didn't seem to have a care in the world. So I did what any sane person would do. I politely said, "Excuse me." But what happened next, I couldn't have anticipated. The woman turned around and looked at me, and then she said something that left me really shocked. She told me, "Oh, come on, don't talk to me. Just go back to China or Mexico or whatever the heck you came from." I couldn't believe my ears. I was taken aback, to say the least. I had simply asked her to let me pass, and she responded with such hurtful words. But I didn't want to escalate things, so I tried again. "Excuse me," I said, hoping she would reconsider. But she just wouldn't stop. She kept telling me, "Get the hell out of here and don't talk to me." It was as if she had a deep-seated anger towards me for no reason at all. I kept trying to reason with her, telling her there was no need to be rude, that all I had said was, "Excuse me." Still, she persisted. She told me, "You're the one acting rude by being in a country that is not yours, and even asking people to move around." I was hurt and confused. I had come to this country to visit my daughter and her new family. I didn't understand why this woman was treating me this way, as if I had done something wrong just by being here. As I stood there, trying to process the hurtful words that had just been thrown at me, a young woman that seemed to be in her late 20s entered the aisle, accompanied by her little child who couldn't have been more than 6 years old. They overheard the whole exchange between Karen and me. The young woman spoke up. She told Karen to stop her hurtful words and that it wasn't right to treat others so poorly. Karen looked at her with disgust and responded with a racist slur. "A mere N-word is going to teach me how to talk to others. What a joke." The exchange escalated quickly. The young woman insisted that Karen move out of the way and stop being racist. She even whipped out her phone and started recording Karen's actions. But Karen's anger was hitting an all-time high, spitting slurs and calling the young woman a witch and telling her to mind her own business. Then, in a moment that shocked everyone present, Karen shoved her loaded cart toward the young woman. But the cart missed the young woman and hit her 6-year-old child instead. The kid fell to the ground with a cry, and a cut appeared on his face from the impact. The mother's anger flared. She rushed to her child's side, checking on him as I hurried over to help as well. The little one was in pain, crying from both the shock and the cut. It was a heartbreaking scene, and my heart went out to them. But the young woman was clearly seeing red right now. She left her child in my care and stormed towards Karen, and in a swift motion, she unleashed a powerful right hook that connected with the side of Karen's head, sending her crumpling to the ground with a thud. Employees rushed to the scene, drawn by the commotion. They tried to defuse the situation and provide assistance. Meanwhile, the young woman returned to her child, holding him close and comforting him. The police and an ambulance arrived shortly after, responding to the situation. They took statements from everyone involved and reviewed the store's surveillance footage to get a clear picture of what had happened. The young mother chose to press charges against Karen, rightfully seeking justice for what had transpired. Thankfully, the EMS assessed her child's injuries and said he wasn't seriously hurt. He had some bruises and a minor cut on his face, which they tended to. The little one was soon back in his mother's arms, comforted and safe. As for Karen, she was treated by the medical professionals for any injuries she might have sustained during the altercation. However, those shiny handcuffs were put around her wrists, as a result of what she did earlier. I went back to my daughter's house. I told her about what had happened, sharing the surprising story of what happened at the store. She wasn't too surprised by it, which was unexpected. She said sorry to me for having to go through something like that during my first time in this country. We sat down and had a deep conversation about how sad it was that such things still happen, even in a place that's known for being diverse and welcoming. My daughter reassured me that most people are kind and polite, but there can be a few who act mean because they don't understand, or because they are hateful or entitled. In the end, I realized that even though my visit began with a surprising situation, I decided to remember the good things I saw: the brave young woman that came to defend me, even though she didn't know who I am, the helpful medical workers, and the quick response from the authorities. It showed me that even when things are tough, there are still kind people who want to make things right. Quick note for those saying that my English seems too good for a non-native. I tend to use certain tools on the internet to help me keep my writings neat and clean, especially when it's a long read. Story 2. Some background. I am an American born and raised, but my boyfriend, who I will always refer to as Sarge in my post, is from Russia. We also have a dog who used to be Sarge's dog while he served in the Russian military, but is now my service dog as we live together. His name is Comrade. Sarge didn't know what to name him when he got him, so he just called him Comrade, as in fellow companion, and the name just stuck, and he is a beautiful brown/auburn/black Estrella Mountain Dog. This happened like 2 or so years after Sarge moved to the US and got his citizenship. At this time, I had a few jobs. I tutored kids in musical instruments, strings, and percussion, was a writer, and, mostly for the hell of it, was the manager at a local McDonald's. Why? Easy money. I just had to supervise and make sure everyone was keeping clean, basically. I dealt with a spoiled parent every now and then complaining about, there isn't enough cheese, or, my kid wants this toy in their meal, and stuff like that. But it wasn't very hard. Whenever I went anywhere outside the house, Comrade was with me. I have him for PTSD, paranoia, and anxiety. I also have fast foreign accent syndrome, which is related to the accident that caused PTSD and paranoia. But that's not why I have Comrade, although it is important to keep in mind for later. Although he was originally a military dog, Sarge trained him to be a service dog for me, and we got him certified, and he has the vest that says in giant letters, "Do not touch," and everything. During this time, Sarge was working as a dog trainer and a falconer, which is why he was so good with dogs. Anyway, when I was at Mickey D's, Comrade always did a really nice job of sitting in the corner and behaving. The entire staff knew him, and how much of a sweetheart he is despite his huge and menacing look size, and since I was comfortable with it, they were allowed to feed him a few fries every now and then and also give belly rubs. They knew this. Usually whenever I was on break, Sarge would be between jobs and meet up with me so we could relax, have a little food, etc. This particular time, he happened to bring an owl. Her name is Emma. She's a barn owl who is actually not nocturnal into the place, and of course everyone was chill. Business was slow since during the time of day kids were at school and parents at work. And by slow, I mean it was completely empty except for the staff. The break was going as per usual until Emma began to get a little antsy on Sarge's arm, because he was wearing one of those falcon gloves. He had to take her out for a bit, and I was left with Comrade, who was sitting up next to me in the booth, looking like Chewbacca or something. I had my journal out and was scribbling something in it. I usually always have my journal on me to write down random thoughts and pictures as a form of therapy. There are pretty poetic things in it, as well as some pretty gruesome excerpts and images. I was drawing one of those graphic pictures. A few minutes later, a mother entitled Mother and her son who was about 6'8" entitled Kid stroll in. They are now the only customers. Cool. Entitled Kid notices Comrade right away, because from the other side of the establishment I hear an excited gasp. I peek up and my thoughts are confirmed. Entitled Kid looks ecstatic. Entitled Mother smiles too and ushers him to the counter so they can order. I smile too as I look back to my journal. I love kids, and even more than that I love making them happy. Unsurprisingly, about a minute later, when they finished ordering and paid, the boy was standing in front of the booth with wide eyes. Keep in mind that I am sitting next to the wall and Comrade is sitting on the other side of me. He is fanboying next to the table, and I chuckle he still hadn't said anything. Entitled Mother walked over and Entitled Kid squealed, "I want to pet that dog." I'm still smiling at this point because kids get me in my soft spot. In the beginning, the mom was chill. "Sorry, sweetie, that's a service dog, can't touch." And the child pouts. Me, Russian accent. "Actually, you can pet him if you like." Remember when I mentioned that I have fast? Yep. Right now, I have a Russian accent. Me, Russian accent. He's quite friendly, mate. His name is Comrade. I probably looked like the most Russian on the face of Russia, with an accent and a strong dog named Comrade. Entitled Kid squeals again and pets the great dog gently by his scruff. Entitled Mother seems impressed and goes to pet him too. See, I let them have a pet because although he is technically working, 1, I hate disappointing people in general and especially kids. 2, I suck at confrontation. And 3, he's pretty good about not getting distracted anyway, so I figure all is well. And all is going well until Entitled Kid, "Mom, look how cool. He's so cool. I want him." I chuckle and half expect the mom to as well, but instead. Entitled Mother, "Well, you know how we get things, don't you?" Entitled Kid, by asking nicely, turns to me, "Can I buy your doggy, please?" I was pretty taken aback, so I assumed this was a joke, although Entitled Mother wasn't laughing. Me, Russian accent, "Sorry boy, he's not for sale. I need him to get by day to day." I said this with a chuckle and a smile since I thought it was a joke after all. Entitled Kid looks confused and Entitled Mother looks like I was the one joking. Entitled Mother, "Oh come on now, it's not like you need him or anything. I mean obviously if he was that important you wouldn't let us pet him. Not so much of a working dog then, huh?" Points to his vest. I am now anxious. Comrade, sensing this, shuffles closer to me, which prompts Entitled Kid to cling to his service vest, not wanting him to move away. Me, Russian accent, "Hey, let go." Entitled Kid lets go of the vest, reluctantly pouting, but I asked nicely. Me, Russian accent, "Sorry, but..." Entitled Mother, seriously. Entitled Mother looks appalled, like I admitted to murder or something. She puts her hands on her hips. Entitled Mother, "Did you just yank my son away? I'll have you know that Entitled Kid is at the top of his class and has been wanting a dog for a while now. It's about time he gets a dog, and my boy wants this one." Me, Russian accent, again, "I'm sorry to disappoint you, but he is my companion. My boyfriend happens to train dogs if you like, but I can't give." Entitled Mother clicks tongue, looks down to Entitled Kid, "And this is why we don't like the Russians, baby, because they're selfish and arrogant." Looks to me, "You're really going to deny my baby that much? Ugh, you should be ashamed of yourself." Wait a minute, aren't your people supposed to share anyways? Scoffs selfish. Me, Russian accent, "Your boy is so smart and yet doesn't understand what a service dog is. I can see he takes after his mother." Boy, Entitled Mother looked like she could have slapped me. Now I'm angry instead of shy and all these snappy comebacks come flooding in. Entitled Mother, face turns red, "Excuse you. What gives you the right? You, R-word immigrant." Now I could slap her. Entitled Mother. Ah, all you Russians are the same poor, petty, greedy, and horrible mean people. By now, my accent had diminished, but I felt like I should keep talking Russian. Why? Because the thing I learned after a few years of having fasts is that people are less likely to screw with you if you're a Russian or sound Russian. Everyone's just scared straight of Russians. That seemed to go over the head of this woman. But another reason I decided to keep it up was because she'd probably make a bigger scene if I randomly dropped the accent I had. Me. And you expect me to hand over my comrade when you call me a terrorist. I knew then that I was screwed. I had started off forcing a Russian accent as planned, but it accidentally turned into a French one. Entitled Mother points finger over my dog at my face. Aha, you lying little witch. You want to deny my son a dog that you selfishly don't need while lying to my face about it. Me, kinda bad Russian accent. You crazy mashagana. At this time, Sarge had walked back in with Emma on arm, confused and oblivious as to what was going on. All he heard was me call this psycho a mashagana and saw how red her face was. All the while comrade was extremely on edge. He briskly walks over. Now, I need to pause for a minute. When I titled this post Scary Russian, that was kinda the equivalent of written clickbait. In actuality, Sarge is a teddy bear. Like an actual lump of sugar. He's very patient and charming to talk to, but lots of people are intimidated by his big build and thickish Russian accent. But be warned, he becomes very cold when he gets angry, even though that's not often, because again lots of patience. Even though he wouldn't hurt a fly, people don't know that, and he is also pretty defensive when it comes to me. Back to the story. Sarge steps between comrade and I in the entitled duo. May I help you, madam? Entitled Mother. I roll. Ugh, another fake Russian, I suppose? And with a hawk this time? Entitled Kid looks at the owl and is captivated as the mother is repulsed, probably thinking what a savage. Sarge, surprised at her rudeness. No, ma'am, I lived near Sochi. Can I ask you why you are harassing my girlfriend? Entitled Mother grabs Entitled Kid by the shoulders. She is claiming that mutt to be a service dog instead of giving it to my son. Since you're apparently a Russian, tell me, aren't your people supposed to share? Sarge, first of all, I don't like you to refer to my comrade as a mutt. Second, what do you mean by your people? You see me here in America, yeah? I am a capitalist like you. Third, I don't appreciate your attitude, going around demanding service dogs from unsuspecting people. Fourth, you should really take a look at yourself. Is this the example you want to set for your boy? Entitled Mother, jaw hits the floor, stunned silence. Did you just tell me how to parent my son? Sarge pinches the bridge of his nose as I, defeated, just took my journal out and continued to draw my graphic picture. Entitled Mother begins bringing up the my people thing again, saying, you have two beautiful pets and you can't share either of them because you're so selfish. And all Sarge can respond with is, if you are obsessed with my people so much, then why don't you move to Russia? I wish that would be a good riddance right there. Sarge is trying to reason with the madwoman, and at this point I just exit the conversation. I sit cross-legged in the booth, stroking comrade therapeutically with one hand, working on my image with my other, with one singular hand. I point this out for a reason. I point this out because a minute after I zoned out, apparently what had happened is the little crap crawled behind Sarge's legs without him noticing, under the booth, and snatched my journal from my lap. Me? What is this? Entitled Kid scurried back out from the table and ran to hide behind him. I've already lost it and Sarge is on his way. Before Sarge can grab the notebook back from the kid, he takes one look down and starts wailing. It's time to reveal what I was drawing. It was a picture of a Grim Reaper/zombie type situation eating the organs of a dead woman, most of the limbs severed. Entitled Mother rips the book from Entitled Kid and gets the same look of absolute horror, shoving the page in the direction of Sarge and I. Entitled Mother, what the hell kind of freak are you? This is nothing that should be advertised to the public. Me, That's because it's private property, you witch. Now, we are officially in a screaming match, which causes Comrade to squirm in place and whimper. Entitled Mother, that dog isn't even happy with you. Entitled Kid, cry screaming makes grabby hand motions to Emma. The owl perched on Sarge's arm, I want that bird. He got too close to Emma, which made Sarge pull back, saying, absolutely not. That owl is not the tamest, it could have seriously scratched the heck out of that kid. Entitled Kid continues to scream. No BS. Entitled Mother now chucks my journal hardcover at the window right next to my head. This, my friend, is when all hell breaks loose. The window cracks, which thank God it didn't break because the glass definitely would have cut me sitting right there, and the sound of the impact freaks Emma out, and she screeches, flapping her wings about and taking off around the McDonald's. Sarge is thrown into a panic. If the bird got lost or injured, it would be his own doing. Sarge, oh heck. Now I didn't know this at the time, but the staff had already called the police, and now that Emma was loose, they, thinking quickly, locked all the doors. This would make sure the mother from hell and her demonic hell spawn wouldn't get out, nor would Emma. I'm still flipping at everything that's going on, and then the mother runs to the counter where her now cold food was and begins a tantrum of her own, throwing food everywhere. She squirts ketchup on the walls, throws fries at the staff and at Sarge, and all the while she is doing this, and I've been trying to calm Comrade down, who is getting worried. Entitled Kid lunges at Comrade, yanking furiously at his collar. Bad idea. I try to warn him, tell him off, but too late. Comrade has gone into attack mode. He turns around and pounces at the boy, his weight throwing Entitled Kid to the ground, having fallen flat on his back. Does he bite him? No. Does he claw at him? No. Comrade is trained to scare an attacker, but not actually attack until I or Sarge give the command. So there they are, on the floor. My dog, with his front paws flat on the floor, but in the air, teeth baring, growling, snarling. Although the brat more than pissed me off, I felt bad for him. I was just about to tell Comrade off, and then Entitled Mother came up behind her shaking son to slap his snout. Yes, that happened. This witch hit my service dog. I was so shocked and infuriated that I couldn't get words out. Entitled Mother, muzzle your dog, freak. Then, I feel something very, very cold being poured all over me. It's a melted fudge sundae. At this point, I was in such shock. I didn't even have any thoughts, I only gasped. I barely reacted while Comrade was still in defense mode. When Sarge looked over, he finally lost patience, and this is where the scary Russian boyfriend part comes in. With a scowl, he marches up to Entitled Kid, picks him up effortlessly by his underarms. He was not being rough or malicious, and sticks him in a high chair made for toddlers, meaning it's much too small, and Entitled Kid is now stuck sitting in one place. Entitled Mother is freaking out more than she ever did and begins to hit Sarge, beating his head pretty pathetically, might I add. This is no sweat to Sarge. He moves slowly, letting her hit him a couple of times, and then grabs each of her wrists. He pulls a move, and basically now she has her arms pinned behind her back, and she is still screaming. Entitled Mother, let me go, 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 you jerk. Sarge, extremely heavy Russian accent. No, I have lost all respect for you to unhand you when you're the one acting like an animal. Shoves her into a seat. Once she's sitting and Sarge is standing over her, she gets quiet. The only sounds to be heard are Comrade growling and Entitled Kid whimpering. He has a stare down and she looks away, scared. I know she was scared specifically, not just from the way she was sweating, but how she tried to bolt for the door past Sarge. She actually made it, but it was locked. One of the staff came out from the kitchen, trying to restrain her, but he just got punched in the face. She pounded on the door, never mind her son still trapped in the high chair, because apparently she saw police outside. Sarge saw them too, so he didn't worry about Entitled Mother anymore. Instead, now that Emma was calm enough to command, he called her over to perch on his arm and got me napkins to clean me up, apologizing as he helped me. When the cops were inside the premise, Entitled mother did not waste any time before claiming. Entitled mother. Officers, I'm glad you're here. She then points to the couple innocently cleaning up a sticky mess. Those Russians stole my service dog, assaulted me and my son, and had their hawk attack us too. They locked me in. The officers were alarmed yet slightly confused. The accusations were alarming, but the call they received was totally different from the story that entitled mother was telling them. McDonald's employee who got punched in the face and has a bloody nose now. Allow me to present Exhibit A. He holds up his phone to the crowd so they can see the screen. It's a video. I couldn't help but laugh. Entitled mother went pale and tried to bolt past the officers again, forgetting her son, but she didn't even make it to the doors. She was charged with attempted theft, animal cruelty, disruption of property, vandalism, assault, resisting arrest, lying to an officer, disrupting the peace, and even child endangerment. She went from a hot-headed psycho to a blubbering and apologetic single mother who needs sympathy. As they were detaining her and figuring out what to do with the child in terms of the other parent or CPS, they asked, "Who's the manager?" Coolly smirking and still mostly covered in ice cream, I raise my hand, and in an all-American accent reply, "This witch." The look on M's face, gasps priceless. I had to hold back more laughter as we took care of some paperwork, answered questions, and pressed charges. We took the rest of the day off, and I could finally laugh until I almost threw up. Nothing in the moments before the arrest was even remotely humorous. It was living hell, but I don't think it would be too much of a stretch to say the ending made up for it. We ended up getting $5,000 in charges, not including the cost to fix the window, which she or insurance also paid for, and Comrade got all the belly rubs he could ever ask for. Though, I don't really let other strangers touch him anymore. Probably because of this. Thanks, Sarge, my wonderful, sweet, Russian partner. Also, I don't know what happened to the kid or mom, but I know the mom at least got some jail time. Story 3. So, let me tell you about the crazy neighbor we had to deal with when my boyfriend and I moved into our apartment last August. It all started when we moved into this older apartment complex with creaky floors. According to our lease, we had to cover 90% of any room with carpet, except for the bathroom and kitchen, to help with noise. We did our best to comply, but it turned out that our apartment used to be a college dorm, and it already had a super thin, crappy layer of carpet. To be extra considerate, we even added more rugs to dampen the noise. About a month after we moved in, a new neighbor moved into the apartment below ours. She seemed nice at first, but it didn't take long for things to take a weird turn. One night, we were up late in the living room, just past midnight, and she started banging on her ceiling, which was our floor. It startled us, and we quickly realized she wanted us to be quieter at night. Fair enough, we thought. The next time was when we got back from the airport around 10 p.m. She came up to our door, banged on it, and didn't even let me explain. She claimed she knew it was us making the noise, not the cat or anything else, and she didn't live alone. We were puzzled but didn't think much of it. We tried to adjust our habits, going to bed earlier, and being more mindful of noise. But no matter what we did, the banging continued. It seemed like she would hit her ceiling every time we moved around. Bed at 10? Bang. Wake up at 5:30 for work? Bang. Just sitting on the couch, but wanted to grab some snacks? Bang. Around Christmas, she knocked on our door again, and this time, my boyfriend answered it, and I recorded the whole conversation. She accused us of following her around the apartment. My boyfriend was baffled and told her that she sounded crazy and that we had no interest in her whatsoever. She continued to insist that we were stalking her and that she wasn't alone in her apartment. We were getting fed up with her antics, so we started stomping back whenever she banged on our floor. It became a sort of game for us. We had already explained the situation to our landlord and the super, and they were on our side. Then the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and our town was the first in the US to go into lockdown. Those early days of quarantine were tough for everyone, and it seemed like our neighbor lost her mind. We're early risers on the weekends, and one Sunday, We woke up early and decided to have a lazy morning. We sat on the couch, had some coffee, and didn't make much noise until around 11 a.m. That's when she went ballistic. It sounded like she was running back and forth in her apartment, banging on her ceiling so hard that we thought she might damage it. I even heard what seemed like muffled yelling. We had plans for the day, so we ignored her and started to leave. But it seemed like she was waiting for us, because she stepped out of her apartment just as we reached the landing. I was holding our dog, waiting for my boyfriend to come down, and she blocked our way. Crazy neighbor, tell your boyfriend to cut it out. Me. Cut what out? Walking. You're hitting the ceiling because of me and the dog moving, not him. Crazy neighbor continues to spew nonsense. My boyfriend finally made it down the stairs, and she kept yelling at him. He stayed remarkably calm, calling her a crazy lady and ignoring her as he walked past her and her car to the dumpster. As I passed her car, she turned her attention to me, and I was too angry to engage. Crazy neighbor, I'm serious, it's done. Me. Okay, what do you want us to do, crawl? I already told you we have a 60-pound dog, and we're just walking around. Crazy neighbor continues to talk over me, and you need to remember that I don't live alone. Me. Okay, neither do I. You see my boyfriend right there, so what's your point? By the way, that's the third or fourth time you've said that, and that could be taken as a threat. Crazy neighbor, you think it's a threat? Fine, it is. Me. Cool, I'm calling the cops. Crazy neighbor, okay, me too. We both called the police, and they arrived shortly. They talked to her first, and then came to speak with us. I don't know what she told them, but I told the officers everything she had done and said over the past 6 months. The officers explained that it was a civil matter that needed to be resolved with the landlord, but assured us that walking around our apartment at 11 a.m. on a Sunday was perfectly acceptable. They also told her not to knock on our door or bang on our floor again. For a few nights, she retaliated by banging on our floor at 1:30 a.m. to wake us up. We contacted our landlord again, and he promised to look into the situation. But that wasn't the end of her problems with him. We also spoke with the people who lived below her and told them about the banging. They had been hearing it the whole time and had no idea what was causing it. Now that they knew, they also reported her to the landlord. Finally, the banging stopped, and we didn't expect her lease to be renewed. We might even end up in a better apartment in the next couple of months. It was a wild ride dealing with our entitled neighbor, but at least it seems like we've come out on top in the end. Edit. A few comments have tried to paint my neighbor as innocent in this. I want to clarify that she made direct threats to me when I apologized and told her we'd take care of it. That was the first time she met me, and all I did was apologize and say we'd fix it. She was never trying to be friendly and work it out. We have never engaged her. We have never provoked her. Story 4. This story happened several years ago, not long after I had moved to Chicago. Before that, I had been living in Romania, where I had been attending school. Romania is an incredible place, amazing people, stunning scenery. Seriously, if you ever get the chance, drop everything and visit. During my time there, I had to learn the language quickly and thoroughly because not many people around me spoke English, except at the university. Fast forward to a few months after I arrived in Chicago. One day, I ordered an Uber, and imagine my surprise when the driver's name appeared to be Romanian. Considering the area had a large Eastern European community, it shouldn't have been too shocking, but I was thrilled at the possibility of practicing my Romanian and maybe even making a new friend. The car pulls up, and I get in. The driver greets me, but he's clearly on the phone, chatting with someone. Not wanting to interrupt, I sit quietly in the back seat, casually listening in on his conversation. The person on the other end asked him if he'd be finishing work soon. His response? Something like this. No, I still have a few hours left, then I'll head home. Right now, I've got someone in the car. God, I hate this country. The women here are so fat and ugly. At least this one has a nice chest, but why can't she lose some weight? He went on like that for a while, ranting about me and American women in general. Now, I've always been on the curvier side, and during my time in Romania, I got used to people commenting on my weight. It seemed to be a national pastime. But I was shocked that this guy would make those kinds of remarks, especially with me sitting right there. As we neared my destination, I decided it was time for some justice. In my best Romanian, and with the distinct regional accent I had picked up while living there, I said, "Can you pull over there, on the right?" I have never seen someone's face turn that shade of red. It was like all the blood in his body rushed straight to his head. His expression was a mix of shock, embarrassment, and dread, like the scene in a movie where the villain realizes they've been caught. Without saying a word, he pulled over. As I got out of the car, I delivered the final blow. "You're not attractive, and you're also fat, so maybe you shouldn't make comments like that." I shut the door and walked away, feeling an immense sense of pride. I've never reached that level of satisfaction since, but I'll always cherish that moment when I let him know exactly what I thought in perfect Romanian.